Welcome to another Friday evening, The Gig Podcast.
The Zencast.
With me, Sean Covanelli. And him. Oh, do you have a name for yourself, sir?
I was just going to say my name like how you did, but you say it. It's better
Please,
when you say
give
it.
it a shot.
It's me, Paul.
Hey, Paul. How are you?
I'm good.
Great to see you here on another evening.
Sure.
Another wet November evening in the fall.
Fridays seem to be that way anymore.
There was another thing that I had to write down here real quick that I done forgot. Oh, I got it.
Oh, there you go.
All right, I'm going to write that down and then do this.
All right.
Welcome to the Gig Podcast. I am Sean Cove without a funny name today.
Good.
And that's Payday Jones without any odd moniker.
No humor at all. That's what we're going for tonight.
This is the humorless Jack of all trades cast. And it's been a grueling week at Lou G's house.
Yeah, it looks like it's been. I see you've gotten your culinary show off the ground, but besides that, it looks like you guys are breaking your backs every day.
Geez, I was prepared for another episode of Job Site Fine Cuisine today.
Right.
And the problem is that I didn't have time for lunch.
To actually do it.
Yeah, because the sprinkler guy really jerked us over there.
Okay.
He was supposed to... He should have been in and out, Big Cuz is trying to move in on our live area.
Oh, that's not a thing. That's not happening.
I just got a notification that Big Cuz went live. Like, yo, Big Cuz, I'm looking at you, Big Cuz.
The only reason you better go live is to tell us that we're live.
Friday nights at 9:00 belongs to the gig. So, Big Cuz, now we got a situation, my man. I'm coming for you. I will strap on my speed skates and shuffle skate right to wherever skating rink he's DJing at.
And you don't want that. We don't want to fight in the middle of the rink.
Nah, you don't want that kind of problem with me.
No.
But because of all that, right? Because the sprinkler guy was jerked off, that means we're jerked off, and we are a week behind schedule on that job.
Okay.
And I haven't been thinking about anything but getting it done all week.
Right.
So I have zero things in my head to talk about today. This is freestyle gig. This is as close to you're going to get
as Sean freestyling
as to me freestyling with Biz. Justin, the greatest project manager in all of the land, is in the live chat. Hello, good sir. Welcome.
So your current project is falling behind, not through your own fault, and you're fortunate that it's at a friend's house. Now, that doesn't mean you do inferior work, but it does mean they're going to tend to be more understanding of the issues because you're friends and you're not going to bullshit each other.
Well, no, Louis G knows exactly what the problem is.
Yeah.
It's the sprinkler guy.
But what I'm saying is if
the problem comes with everybody who's scheduled behind Louis G, right? Because if this sprinkler guy showed up on time,
right,
I'd already be in Stratford working on a bathroom.
Okay.
But the sprinkler guy is doing what he did, and now we are at least a week behind. I'm hoping with all of my heart that we get everything finished by next Friday, so then I can come back around Thanksgiving week and start the bathroom in Stratford.
Okay.
I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm hoping.
Right.
I'm hoping. And so I've been a miserable prick to deal with on the job site all week because it's becoming, it's stretching out, and I'm getting stressed out, and we got to drive 2 hours there and back every day, which is fucking terrible.
Just to find out that you're dragging behind because of somebody else.
Well, we knew that. We've been known that, right? Like, it threw me off. I had a whole week where I'm scrounging for work and picking up little day rate jobs here and there because this sprinkler guy's a jerk off.
Okay.
And then that throws off not only this job, it throws off my financial status. It throws everything for a fucking loop. And now it's all catching up, and I got a fucking headache, and I'm pissed, and it's that time of the fucking month when I'm sick of being a construction worker.
It comes every month.
And I'm ready to fucking, instead of driving to Louis G's in the morning, I'm ready to just make a left right off of the Ben Franklin
jump off a cliff
and fucking see what happens.
See if the Silverado can float.
Take my fucking chances, because I'm fucking sick of being a construction worker. That's for damn sure. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with that.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm an orphan. I'm not saying I never had breakfast.
But what I am saying is that I don't have any topics for
or
tonight.
patience.
Yeah, or patience for that matter. So since the greatest project manager in all of the land is in the building,
Perhaps he has topics.
he may. I know a topic that he particularly that we've discussed many a time,
Okay.
in which is the wonderful. I was going to say reservation,
Okay.
but that's where the Choctaw Indians live on a reservation.
Right.
I'm thinking more of a resort,
Okay.
a beautiful New Jersey resort, where I met the greatest project manager in all of the land.
I got you.
That was probably one of the shining examples of crooked politics in the justice system brought to fruition. Okay? And here's what it's Trenton Rescue Mission.
Trenton Rescue Mission. Yes. Okay.
Now, way back in 2000, maybe 10,
Okay.
right? It all gets fuzzy from about 1986 until 2019.
Ish.
Everything's kind of cloudy between
that
those
30 years just bleeds together.
Yeah. So I got pinched. I'm sitting in the county, and I don't know what's happening with me.
Right.
This was the drug court days where they were just kind of putting me wherever they wanted to, right?
Okay.
One morning I wake up, and Vince's place. Yeah, it was. It was also called Vince's place. There was multiple facets to the Trenton Rescue Mission.
Okay.
Okay, Vince's place, the actual rescue mission. There was the thrift store. There was the delivery drivers. There
Okay.
was the donation drivers who would pick things up pick other people's trash up from wherever the hell they were saying it's a donation from.
Right.
So I'm sitting in B Pod in Gloucester County one morning, and the homeless shelter. The homeless shelter is also the actual rescue mission. It was a homeless shelter and a soup kitchen.
Yeah, because when I go to their website, I'm reading about how many meals they've served and how many individuals they've helped, and that presentation doesn't sound like
On
where you'd
paper,
be.
these people look like just stand-up citizens,
Heroes.
right?
Yeah.
Heroes of the community.
Right.
Of East Trenton. They're smack dab. They're right on the edge of East Trenton and downtown Trenton,
Okay.
which downtown Trenton is exactly that, shopping and state buildings and lawyers' offices and all those things. And East Trenton is a slum, right?
Okay.
It's just falling apart. The only thing that they have that's probably the only building in full tact is the police station.
So are you near?
Because they're getting a lot of business over there.
Well, sure. Are you near the stadiums? Like
What stadiums are in Trenton?
The Trenton Thunder plays right there, and there's another team too. But there's some stadiums in the middle of Trenton.
I would assume that it's not that far,
Okay.
but it's not that close either.
Because I'm looking for it on a map and just trying to see where
It was 98 Carroll Street.
Yeah.
98 Carroll Street on the corner of Perry Street. Perry Street, which is a notorious blood gang stronghold
Okay.
and open air drug market.
Okay.
I didn't know all this on the morning when I was sitting in my cell in fucking Gloucester County, and there goes the F word. I'm going to try and not
Trying
curse.
to do a clean show here.
We're trying to not curse because
Christ's sake.
I use it too much, and I could really expand my vocabulary to a way better narrative and many more adjectives should I not use the F word so much.
Right.
Right by the Trenton Fire Headquarters, says Mr. Malatessa.
Yeah, I see that. Yep.
Uh-huh. Also next to the Trentonian building, where they make the only newspaper in Trenton, also the most famous newspaper in Trenton.
That's how that works.
Reading of choice in Mercer County Jail, the Trentonian. I wake up that morning, they knock on my cell, they say Covinelli, because I was locked up with an alias.
Yeah.
Not really, but that would be funny.
Sure.
If I did a whole bid under somebody
Give him a
else's
fake
name.
ID. No, that guy did time. I never did time.
Not I. And they're like, pack your stuff. We're rolling out. So I don't know where I'm going. I know they're not sending me home because that's just not the way this thing works, right?
Okay.
I know they're sending me somewhere, but they don't tell me. They say they don't know. I don't buy that, right? I think that the I think the letter comes into the jail. The jail goes, oh, okay, we got to set up transportation for this guy to go.
Yeah, they're not letting you leave the building without
this
knowing where
place.
you're going. There's no way.
So as I'm finally in the cop car with two corn-fed Gloucester County sheriffs, right, husky, stocky, buzz-cutted fellas, they finally tell me where I'm going, and they say, you're going to Trenton.
Okay.
Now, I knew of almost every program in the state of New Jersey and had no idea that there was one in Trenton.
Okay.
Right? I'm like, what the hell am I doing in Trenton? Like, maybe there's a Salvation Army there or something like that. Maybe that's what's going on. They're like, nah, that's what it says. We're going down 98 Carroll Street. I'm like, all right, well, let's roll. So we roll up, and it's a low-lying brick building. There's a courtyard with like a couple of what looks to be utilitarian vans and trucks on the side. And I'm like, what the hell is this place? I see there's a little bit of movement, and hop out. I'm cuffed up in my orange suit, and they walk me through the front door. They say, they tell the guy at the front door, hey, this gentleman is now your new resident.
He's going to be hanging out for a little
He's your new renter here. He's a new tenant. Yeah. He's a new tenant in your facility. And I'm like, all right, cool. And they had me just standing in a room as you walk in. It kind of has once you get inside, it feels like this was once an elementary school.
Okay.
Right? The way it's set up in a big square. Although I didn't know that yet. I'm only in the first room.
Right.
It's set up in a big square with rooms on every hallway on the square and like a cafeteria.
Okay,
and so I pull up. We're sitting in like the front room, which is like has some pay phones and a TV and stuff like that. And a nurse or a counselor walks out, and she's like, uncuff him. Like with a little bit of attitude.
Right, like what are you doing?
Right? Yeah, a little attitude. Uncuff him. And so I could just see the hatred in these guys' eyes when they were they didn't want to uncuff me.
Right.
Like they wanted me to be locked somewhere. They had a little bit of a little bit of hesitancy, like, I just don't want to. We don't like taking the cuffs off. We just like leaving the cuffs on.
They don't want to take the cuffs off just because she said so. And also, they're probably irritated that they're the two that were chosen to take this drive.
Probably so. I choose to believe that they're just scumbags.
Oh, it all bleeds together.
Yeah. So they uncuff me, and she then says, okay, he's fine. You guys can go. Like, dismisses them, right?
Right. You've done your job. Go home.
So in my mind, the first thing is like, oh, okay. All right. This might not be too shabby here. This might be okay if we're living like in this fashion.
Like we tell the cops what's what. We could be okay here.
So
we don't just bow down to the pressure,
to the law,
to the uniforms.
Anywhere that doesn't bow down to the law, my kind of place, right?
Right.
So this lady, she was like an older black lady, probably early 60s, clearly with wearing a wig, right?
Okay.
A bad wig.
A wig nonetheless.
And she takes me in and gives me the regular rigmarole, which is you run through 100,000 questions about yourself. Anytime that you hit a new facility, they have the same questionnaire that they ask you, like any family history of disease,
okay.
Were you ever abused? Were you ever molested? Were you ever this? Have you ever this? Have you ever that? What was your drug of choice? How much did you use? When was the last time you used? Which I began to, as you probably could assume, I began to just make things up.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
That's where I figured you were
I
going.
started getting a kick out of just making stuff up when I would tell this.
See what you can slip in there and get away with?
Yeah, like any family history of any of the following. Asthma, liver disease, this, that, the third. Like, heavy Crohn's on my mom's side.
It's very big. Everybody's got bad knees. There's nothing you could do.
Everybody has bubble guts. Is that on there? Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah, that's bad in my family.
This is why I can't compete in the sports. If you guys have sports here, I'm not going to be available for that.
So we run through that. They probably do a piss test and like a quick physical to make sure things are as they should be, whatever that may be.
Right.
And they give me a blanket.
Okay.
They're like, hey, here you go, right? So now, instead of this feeling like something else, now this feels like a fancy jail, right?
Okay,
like
'cause you got a
because of just the whole process of the intake. I'm like, okay, this is still the same thing. This isn't like some high class rehab,
Right.
where like we're hanging out and meditating on the water after lunch. Like, this is just lower security jail.
Right. Nobody's pushing you around and things like that, at least.
Yeah, you're Justin absolutely right. They gave me a USC blanket. Most everybody had a USC blanket because obviously
Big Trojans fans, yeah.
USC donated a truck full of blankets to this place, right?
Are we talking about the same USC?
Yes, the University of Southern California. Correct.
Why did they donate a truckload of blankets in New Jersey?
I'm sure that somehow
was there no colleges in the immediate area?
there was some kind of hustle that Trenton Rescue Mission had going on
They were probably getting paid.
that they got USC blankets. Yeah, they were getting paid to endorse USC. It was part of their recruiting program.
If we can get one out of every 20 of those people to come out to our school, we'll be balling.
Yeah, it was their recruitment program. The head of Trenton Rescue Mission probably told them that they're running a high school camp for wayward boys, in which USC then thought maybe there's a chance
Got
that
some
we
running
get some
backs there.
recruits. Yeah.
What do you know what her name was? The head of the
Mary Gay.
Okay.
Mary Gay. Something. I think Mary Gay was her first two names,
Okay.
and then she had a different last name. Just, do you in chat? You remember her last name? Barrett. Her son also worked there. He was the assistant.
Okay.
Mary Gay Abbott. Maybe. I'm not going to say it sounds
Yeah.
wrong.
No, Mary Gay Abbott Young. Yeah. Because as soon
Yep.
as I type that in, the first thing that comes up is the rescue mission.
Yeah,
All right.
because her son was Barrett Young. Yeah,
Okay.
now I remember. All right, so they give me my USC blanket. They say, you're in room whatever it was. So I'm like, all right, let me go walk down to this room, see what's what with the situation here.
Okay.
Walk in, there's 6 bunks in this one room. And yes, 1, 2, maybe 5. And everybody had a closet, and it's the size of a classroom, but 5 grown men live in it. And I get in there, and sure enough, one of the dudes who's nobody's in the room right now because everybody's at their jobs, right, doing their little work detail.
Okay.
So I post up, and I'm like trying to decide whether I like this and I'm happy, or if I'm still pissed that I'm locked up or what. But regardless, when you get the next step towards freedom, it's looking up, right?
It always feels better.
It always feels better.
Yeah.
And they had a real bed, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm just going to sit. I don't know where I'm supposed to be, so I'm not going to be anywhere. I'm just going to sit here, set up my little USC Trojans blanket,
Right.
and take a nap. I wake up because somebody rolls in the room, right? And I'm like, well, let me hop up and see who we're dealing with. And sure as shit, it's Ambrose, right?
Okay.
Ambrose is notorious in Gloucester County.
Oh, okay. So
He's
you knew him before, like he walks in the room and you open your eyes and you're like, I already fucking know this guy.
Yeah, fucking
Okay.
Ambrose.
I
What's up?
Effing know this guy.
Yeah, and he's like, yo, Cove, what's happening? And he's happy to see me, and I'm relatively happy that it's a face I know. Although Ambrose is a guy who's far out, right? He's a talk to himself type of dude.
Okay.
Solid dude. He's the kind of guy you want to have your back, but also a little bit touched. All right?
Okay.
Ambrose walks in. He starts giving me the rundown. Look, this is all right. You can eat good. That's always the first thing they tell you about a
How's
spot.
the food?
Yeah. You eat good here, right? Which to me, I've got such an exquisite palate.
You do.
Nowhere in the system has really helped me to
You're-
eat good.
You're not going to eat good when you're out here looking for brie and apricot preserves. I understand.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Beefaroni just doesn't compare.
Right.
Beefaroni cooked by the bucket is just not
Not the
something
same.
that I would call eating good.
But it's still a step up from whatever was happening in the jail in the first place.
It was better than that. Yeah, Justin did run the kitchen, and I'm not going to take back anything I said. It just, you dealt the hand you were
right.
working with.
You cooked what was served. What was served. That's not your fault. You're
Yeah.
not the chef. You're just the cook.
Yeah, he was playing the hand he was dealt, And so I'm like, all right, cool. So the first thing, and I was hungry, bro, because in the county, I wasn't getting anybody putting money on my books. Nothing. Like, I was hustling, and me and Dink we would get a little something to eat every couple days, but we weren't eating good.
So at this period of your life, are you already a bodybuilder? Are you
A fitness superstar?
Yeah. Are you in other words, you're not taking in a lot of calories, but are you still working out a whole ton while you're there? Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And that's probably what also it only added to my hunger.
Right.
You know, but I wasn't going to stop working out. I was just going to deal with being hungry.
Right.
You know, because when you you go hard, bro. Forget the hunger thing. You just work out and you deal with the hunger later.
Yep.
The more that it hurts, the better off you are. Is in my
Hey, no pain, no gain. That's what they say, right?
Yeah. So already I'm starving. I'm like, Ambrose, what time is lunch in this joint? He's like, oh, it's about to be now. I'm like, all right, cool. So we go to the cafeteria, the mess hall. Justin's standing there behind the serving bar, looking all cute and short with his little glasses on. I'm like, oh, if there's little cutie pies like this in the joint, I could get used to this,
It's getting better by the minute.
Not only do I have a cuddly USC blanket, but I got a cuddly little kitchen worker who might snuggle in it with me. So we get served, I remember it, we get served beefaroni. Listen, I don't have the collar shirt on because I just don't care this week.
That's what's missing. I couldn't figure out what was missing.
I'm just too annoyed at life to fucking pretend that I'm being an Anchorman thug today. The collared shirt will be back next week, I promise you. Today is like relaxed. I can't believe the week's over.
It's casual Friday.
Praise Jesus. We get served beefaroni.
Okay.
Right? Which in this world that we live in, I'm not eating beefaroni.
Right.
Okay? I'll eat, let me take that back. I might eat beefaroni
There's circumstance.
if it's jazzed up the right way.
Yeah.
Justin's beefaroni, I'm not eating that in this world, right? Because I've tasted what he does with beefaroni.
It's not so much.
It ain't all that, just. Thank goodness you got into construction is all I'm saying here.
He was making sawdust before he was making sawdust.
Yeah. But, right, the plate is stacked. It must have been 2 pounds of beefaroni.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, man, thank God, because I'm starving. So I eat until my stomach hurts, right?
Okay.
Like, they gave me enough food that since I had been shrinking my stomach for the previous few months, now I ate a full plate and I'm hurting.
Right.
Like, I'm in serious pain. And I'm like, oh, man. We go back to the room. I'm chilling, right? Ambrose is there, right? So this is like, we get into I'm getting into the routine. Now, what happens here is a couple things, right? Everybody has a job detail.
Okay.
My job, I worked on the docks, right? I unloaded trucks because here's where the hustles all come in from Mary Gay Abbott, right?
Okay.
Like I said, she's got guys like me who are sent from drug court, who drug court's like, well, we're not sending them to a classy program. We're just going to send them to be housed over with you. So it's like, nice jail.
Forgetting what actually happened. Overall, what's the objective of you being here? And is there a set term that you're here for? Or is it like one of those things where, like, if they sign off on you, you can leave?
No. So I think the idea is 6 months, right? And you have to stay in the building for the first 3 months.
Okay.
And then as long as you're a good boy after those 3 months, you are allowed to go out into the world and find a job and start like saving your own money or whatever.
Okay.
And then the idea is that you save some money. If Mary Gay Abbott had it her way, you would move into their other section. Wing. Yeah, the wing, the independent living wing.
Right.
On the other side, where they take 50% of your paycheck.
Yeah.
Right? You don't pay rent.
Right.
You just pay half of your paycheck to them.
Right.
Which is fucking ludicrous to me.
Your room and board comes right out of there.
You're paying half of your paycheck to stay in a room smaller than this, with no amenities. It's just a bed and a dresser
Right.
in an old warehouse. It's a hallway on the 4th floor of an old warehouse with a bed and a dresser in it.
People in New York City would pay $1 million for that.
That's probably true. That's definitely true. So we get our work detail. They have the first work detail that you get actually before I went to the docks. You have to go clean the shelter, right? Because the other side, this building has 3 or 4 actual buildings, all kind of connected by hallways of sorts,
Okay.
right?
It's like wings and hallways.
Justin, it may have been an old Cracker warehouse. I don't remember that piece of information. You know, like that's very possible. So it's all connected by these dingy hallways. And once you get out of the side that we're on, which was relatively clean, you're in just funk. Like dirty, dusty, filthy, half a step from abandoned warehouse funk. And cobwebs and just disgust, right? So your first job detail is to go clean the human warehouse, you know, the homeless shelter.
Okay.
So all these homeless people around Trenton come at like 7 o'clock at night, and they sleep in rows and rows of metal steel bunks in big rooms, and then they kick them out at 6 in the morning. And I will tell you that I've never smelled a smell like the women's wing of the homeless shelter.
Very tangy.
Oof, it was bad, and we were in charge. We had to clean it, and we would find all types of things, right?
Stuff.
Like we'd find disgusting things.
Right.
We'd find lost crack pipes, syringes, empty bags with drugs in them. So this is like nobody was checking this before sending us there. They just let us go over there.
So does that become a difficult thing for you? Like now you're basically walking around in this unwatched situation where you got drugs in your hand, and that's the whole reason you're here in the first place.
Yeah, no, it wasn't difficult for me. It was more difficult on the days that I didn't find drugs. I wasn't trying. I'm like, whatever. If we find some shit, let's party.
That's it.
And which in the beginning, early on, I wasn't using when I was there, but later down the line, we got to that.
So they don't test you there or anything?
They did, but all of us used to carry clean piss with us.
Oh, good. Okay.
Because they're not really worried about your rehabilitation.
Right.
Them testing you is part of their system.
The rules on them.
Yeah, but they're not really trying to catch you.
Right.
You know what I mean? They want to keep these beds filled. And even though if they sent you back, they'd have that bed filled tomorrow by somebody else, I think that they'd rather just turn a blind eye, let you do your thing, and then let you fall on your face when you leave and
come back.
Have to address the world as, you know, a guy with a drug habit that you caught when you were in a halfway house.
Okay.
So we would clean a joint up, right? Some guys clean the men's wing up. There's some guys who had to do the laundry of the bed sheets that these homeless people slept on.
Okay.
It's a rough go at things, right?
Yeah.
You know,
you're at the bottom tier of the jobs. You got to work your way up and out of this.
Yeah. And but it was good because Mary Gay didn't have to pay any real staff to do this.
Right.
You know, it got taken care of. You had to get in with Wayne, Mary Gay's pet, to know when you had to piss. Yeah, Wayne would tell you. Wayne worked for Mary Gay.
Okay.
And Wayne was a half a fruit. Like an out of the closet half a fruit. Like there's no
Mensa Fanuk, is that what they were saying in Italian?
Yeah. And he wasn't hiding it and whatever. He was cool with all of us. But if you were a handsome looking younger white gentleman,
he'd be extra cool with you.
Wayne would give you the inside scoop. That's why that was Justin's man.
Yeah.
Wayne would give Justin whatever he wanted.
He brought him up right away.
Because Justin had his boyish good looks.
Sure.
You know, he's like, Wayne would have probably paid 3 paychecks. He would have given up 3 months of fucking salary just to touch Justin's soft lips. Tell me it's not true, Justin. And So she's not paying anybody. And then if you're there for like a week or two, right? They send you to another detail. Like Just had the kitchen.
Right.
And Just and this older black dude who I can't remember his name, he was about 6'5", maybe from Newark or Jersey City. Just and him ran the kitchen. Right?
Okay.
And they were cool. You know, everybody in the kitchen was all right. And then everybody else mostly had a job in the thrift store, right?
Okay.
So she had her hands in that pot where people, instead of donating something to the Salvation Army, for whatever reason, I guess she put out some advertising money to let the neighborhood know, hey, you could donate your shit to us.
Okay.
And we would have, we would send trucks out. There was guys who worked as truck drivers who weren't locked up, and they would have a helper who was locked up, and they would leave and go pick up old couches and piss-stained beds and clothes and bags and kids' toys and, you know what I mean? Anything you could think of that got donated to us. Then they would bring it back. There was guys, I was there on the docks. It was me, Tommy Irish, and Paulie Dungarees. Paulie Dungarees was this old Polak from Jersey City, but he was as solid as they come, old Paulie Dungarees.
You don't get a name like that if you're not solid.
Nah, you got to be raw. You got to be rough.
Right.
Raw, rough, and tumble.
That's right.
But he was like, he didn't look like he looked like an old drunk dude that you see at a bar in Jersey City. But Stone Cold G. I guess a lot of that came, I think Paulie Dungarees had already done a 25-year bid at one point.
Okay.
And come home and got locked up again.
So he was already seasoned before he got there.
Yeah, I think Paulie Dungarees had caught a body, but don't quote me on it. We
don't talk about Paulie Dungarees in that way.
Paulie Dungarees also claimed that he was an alcoholic.
Okay.
But every time Smack came around, Paulie Dungarees had his nose in it. So I don't know.
You could be both.
Yeah, but he would say like, nah, I don't do drugs, right? And I think that was his way that he tried to skirt the system. So if he kept telling them like, oh yeah, I just have a drinking problem, then they were never really going to look at him for a drug test.
When he felt a little off.
Yeah. They might give him a breathalyzer, which he might have failed because there was a few times that I remember seeing Paulie Dungarees with a little half a pint of vodka in his jean pocket while we're unloading trucks.
Okay.
Now, unloading trucks was a good spot. It was me, Tommy Irish, Paulie Dungarees, and then there were some other guys who kind of worked in the peripheral of where the docks were, but we were the guys unloading the trucks.
Okay.
Now, when trucks came in, guys always wanted to come in and unload trucks because that's where your gold mine was at.
Okay.
Because you never know what you might find of value that you can then bring back over to the other side and sell it. How much stuff that came out the trucks did you sell out the back? Justin said. Yeah, this is what I'm getting.
We're getting there.
Yeah. So, like, sometimes a couple of somebody would donate like a couple pairs of old sneaks that were still in decent shape, and if they're getting sold in jail, basically, right? Those sneaks are worth a good $20 or something like that.
Right.
I might not wear them on the street, and to me, it never made sense, right? And maybe it's because I was the guy getting the stuff, but to me, I'd be like, you clowns got that for free, and you're trying to sell it to me for whatever you're trying to sell it when it's somebody's used bullshit. Like, it didn't equate to me. Like, I was good with what I had. I didn't need to just spend money to spend money.
Well, you don't have to buy it, but they're charging you for, their efforts.
I understand. I was charging them for my efforts.
Okay.
I get it, but I don't.
You just wouldn't participate on the other end.
I can't see myself. It would have had to been something like maybe if you got a CD player or something. You know what I mean? Like, all right, yeah, I'll take that about you. But it was mostly sneakers and hoodies and clothes and stuff that we could take off the trucks. Now, we had to be sneaky about it, right? Like, you can't just walk back to the building with a whole bag full of shit.
No, you're looking like Santa.
The best way that I remember to do it, right? Because everybody was supposed to go to the docks and to the thrift store and to the sorting station at one time, and then everybody comes back at lunchtime, right? So what you would do is you'd get whatever it is that you felt like you needed to bring back and sell.
Right.
And before lunchtime, you just kind of walked back over to the building and nobody really messed with you, right?
Okay.
So it was easy, but you just had to know the right time to do it and kind of who to avoid on your way out. So now after things came off of the truck, right, somebody's trash, it was me, Paulie Dungarees, and Tommy Irish who are 75% in charge of deciding which of this stuff we're going to send upstairs and which of this stuff we're sending to the trash.
Okay. So you do get to choose. You don't just get to choose left or right. You get to choose the stuff that's actually going to go outside and get thrown away anyway.
Yeah, because after a while, there was a guy who ran the thrift shop, right? And he was usually on the floor of the shop selling furniture.
Right.
Used furniture salesman, right?
You know how that goes.
Yeah, he was usually on the floor of the shop hustling used pieces, used desks and shit like that, selling you somebody's daughter's mattress that they grew out of.
Sure.
And fucking finally stopped peeing the bed, so, they got rid of it, whatever. After they de-bed bugged it.
Yeah. Steam cleaned it.
Which I don't even think they did that, honestly. I think they just took them and that was it. Put it right on the floor.
Once, you're fine.
So that guy would always come back in the morning bitching at us, right? He'd be like, "You guys got to get better shit. We need furniture out there. Exactly. The face you're making, yeah, exactly." And I'm looking at the dude like, first off, it has nothing to do with us.
The truck shows up and it's got what it's got.
Secondarily, this is your career, dude. Your career is selling free furniture back to the same community that donated it to you.
Well, listen.
You're a loser.
Look, everybody's got to have a hustle and make their money. He just doesn't have to be so excited about it. It's not fucking Glengarry Glen Ross over here. He's just selling used fucking piss furniture.
Yeah. What was his name? The old black guy. No, not the old black guy. It was like Barrett's buddy it was Barrett's friend. He was friends with Mary Gay's son, which is why he got the job. But he was an alcoholic too. Somebody told me he was drinking on the job. Sonny was the old black guy I think you're thinking about. And Sonny was cool as a fan. Okay. Sonny was cool as a fan, but Sonny was just a dude who lived in the neighborhood. And Sonny and Joe Ross were guys from the neighborhood who just would decide that sometimes, like every year or two, they just decided, I'm going to take a little break from the neighborhood and go stay at the rescue mission and play that game for a while.
Okay.
And they would live in the halfway house. Sonny's whole career and his whole bank account was built off of getting stuff from the trucks and then having people from the neighborhood, before the stuff goes from the trucks to the dance floor, right?
Right.
He would have people from the neighborhood bring their cars or trucks out back, and he would walk stuff off of the truck, the donation trucks, put it on some neighborhood girl's car, and then take $50 for it and send her on her way.
Okay.
And he would stack. He would make bread like that. He was just scamming the whole system, and nobody questioned him otherwise.
Right.
And it didn't matter because if he got caught, they're going to kick him out, and he's just going to go back home 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
It was such a weird thing to see. I couldn't wrap my mind around why this is the path you chose here. But also, Sonny was a drinking man, as was Joe Ross, who did the same thing, except Joe Ross's whole hustle was to sell cigarettes in there.
Okay.
Joe Ross would sell cigarettes. He'd bring back liquor because since he was like a voluntary dude, and this was my bunkie, good old Joe Ross, right?
Oh, okay.
Joe Ross he drank, but he didn't do drugs. So he would like sleep with some girl and live with her for a year or two, and then they would break up, and he'll come stay at the Trenton Rescue Mission until he finds a new girlfriend, and then he moved in with her. But Joe Ross was Mr. Hustle, right?
Okay.
That's like drug dealers staying in the shelter at night to get the sales. Another thing that happened, right? Drug dealers would stay in the shelter so people could get high all night staying in the shelter. Because once they're in the shelter,
right,
they wouldn't let them leave until 6 in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, in the homeless side.
In the homeless side,
okay,
right. So, crack dealers would sleep in the shelter at night and just push cracks to these guys who were stuck in the shelter going back and forth to the bathroom smoking cocaine.
That's excellent.
So you get the picture of the kind of place this is.
Sure, very upstanding kind of place.
Yeah. And none of this, right? None of this was like being nobody, no staff member. There wasn't even really any staff there, right? But the few staff that were there weren't seeking out these kind of things to try and stop them.
Okay.
They were just turning a blind eye to it.
Right.
So Sonny was selling furniture off the trucks. Joe Ross would sell cigarettes, bring you back liquor. Joe Ross would bring drugs back for me sometimes, and he would sell clean piss. Now, Joe Ross would have a knot the size of a grapefruit, right? Because he was about making money, and he didn't spend it anywhere. So he had a hustle every which way and just kept filling up his wallet. It was amazing. He would loan me money. He would loan me $30. I give him 40 back tomorrow, that kind of thing. Like, he was just coming from every angle. He was one of the first guys I met who was like, his whole purpose was paper. Right? Which I respected. It was on a small scale, right? But it was on a scale nonetheless, and he was successful at small scale business.
Okay.
Small scale, underhanded business, right?
Is there any other kind?
Yeah. So we would unload the trucks. We send it upstairs. Yeah, Joe Ross was solid. Super solid, Just. We would send the stuff upstairs where the guys were up there sorting. So we would take what we wanted, right? Sonny would sell what he could. We had to send a decent piece out to the dance floor once in a while just to keep this guy from yelling at us too much. Yeah. And then all the small stuff went upstairs to like the sorting room.
Okay.
Now those guys get next pick, right?
Right.
Like, because we couldn't really go through every box. So if we would send boxes of stuff up there, and now they get to figure out in those boxes like what they want and what they could sneak back and make $1 for. Everything else either got stored in the warehouse or got sent down onto the floor to be sold. Now on the weekends, right? Wayne, we've discussed this character previously.
We have.
Yeah. Wayne would run a yard sale. They let Wayne run a yard sale on the weekends because the thrift shop wasn't closed on the weekends, but for some reason, they still ran the Saturday yard sale. So on the corner of Carroll and Perry Street, there was like an empty lot. This whole facility took up a full city block.
Yeah.
Right?
It sounds like you're at the Carter.
Basically. Yeah, basically we were. Took up a whole city block. On the northwest corner of that city block, there was like an empty patch of grass. And in that empty patch of grass, there was a separate little building behind it. And what we would do is, through the week, right, Wayne would come into the docks, and he would say some shit like, hey, I need some black furniture. So put some to the side for me for the yard sale, right?
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, Wayne, because Wayne would bring me out to the yard sale with him. So I'm like, I got you, Wayne. We'll put some shit to the side. Now, Wayne's bitching at me, too, because I had no interest in participating in any of these hustles with the furniture.
Right.
I just wanted to get a pair of sneakers and sell them for a couple bucks.
Right.
And keep my thing moving.
You weren't interested in the inner workings of all this. You just wanted your little peripheral game, and then that was it.
That was it. So Wayne would be giving me shit. He was like, you gotta get some better furniture. We need the good shit for the yard sale. I need you to, when the good shit comes in, you need to get it to the other building so that Dave was the guy who ran the thrift shop, so that Dave's not putting it on the floor. If you want to make money on the yard sale, you got to get the good shit out there.
Okay.
And I'm thinking to myself, none of this is good shit. This is all trash. Yeah, this is all trash from East Trenton. This is the shit that people in East Trenton don't want.
Right.
And now
That's how it got here.
Now we're trying to sell it to fucking North Trenton.
It wasn't even worth them throwing out.
No. So in this building near the little lot, right? Yeah, the storage unit in the building at the end. This is what I was about to talk about, Just. In this building next to the lot, Wayne had all his pieces stored.
Okay.
Right? So on Saturday,
Yeah, the art collection.
Wayne goes out. He brings like a couple guys, 2 or 3 guys with him, because Wayne was like a half a step from having a heart attack and a stroke.
Okay.
So he would pick some guys who would help him carry the furniture. And by help him, he would point fingers and say, bring that out, bring that out, bring that out.
Right.
And we would set it up on this yard, and the neighborhood would drive by, stop, and then it was our duty to haggle them up and try and get a good chunk of change off of it. Except Wayne wasn't trying to give up any of the bread, right? So I wasn't even trying to take any of the bread. I was just hanging out. I was happy to be there, right? Because Wayne was friends with the neighborhood crackheads.
Okay.
They would stop by to talk to Wayne, and I'd be like, yo, here's $20. Go get me some shit.
Okay.
Right? Bring some back, and then I'll give you another $10 or whatever.
Right.
So I could go out there and get high, hang out, and fucking sell furniture, and just have a good old time, and nobody's bothering me.
Right.
And I didn't have to sit in no meetings or anything like that, right?
Used furniture salesman. I understand.
Yeah. Except, so Wayne's trying to get every dollar he can because he's not giving any of that money back.
No.
He's pocketing in all that, right? He would make like $1,500 on a yard sale day, right? And he maybe told Mary Gay and the Mission that they made $300.
I made $75. It was a real slow day.
Made $300. You know, here's $200 for you. I'll keep $100. Right? You know what I mean?
For my efforts.
Yeah. And he's pocketing like $1,500. The
Right.
yard sale did good. There was some movement in the yard sale. Wayne had a drug habit. Yeah, that is true, Justin.
I mean,
obviously.
that's why you're all together in the first place.
No, Wayne worked for Mary Gay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Wayne was an employee of the rescue mission. But yes, also why we were hanging out with Wayne because we all had habits.
Right. Birds of a feather.
So I didn't care. Like, I was willing to give people furniture. Like, I'll give you a whole living room set for $5. I don't care.
It's nothing to you because you're not making the money one way or the other.
Like, nobody paid for this, right? And I'm not profiting off of it. So if you're a cute black girl from East Trenton, you can get this whole shit for $10 and a hug. How about that?
Right.
I haven't smelled a woman in 6 months.
Put some perfume on and come back.
Yeah. And Wayne would always give me shit like, you're fucking giving this shit away. I'm like, Wayne, yeah, it's free. Like, here's the $10 that you didn't have 3 minutes ago.
Right.
He was like, nah, that's a $75 piece. Like, in no world is that worth $75. In no world, except your own askew little fucking methadone brain world, Wayne. So that was another thing that happened over there, right? Okay. So here, this happened too. I do want to cut at an hour and come back,
I got the clock on.
There's so much to go into in this place.
We got 15 minutes.
So I think I told you this before, right? But when I Louis G, what's up, buddy? When I left Carl Purcell, when they laid me off, which is the company that I was building Wawas for, yeah. When I left them, I signed up to get unemployment.
Right.
Went through the paperwork, whatever, did the website thing. They tell me, hey, you already have a claim open. Because they ask you, have you ever filed before?
Right.
And at that point, I'm like, no, I never filed, right? They're like, well, you had a claim previously, though, no? I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Contacts.
Yeah. Is there like construction grade contacts that you should be wearing? Because
Probably.
on Friday nights, your whole shits are just dried out.
Yeah. Especially because we were doing drywall.
Does Milwaukee make
spackle
any
today.
contacts?
I wish they did. That just had red lightning bolts in them. You can't see any iris, just white and red lightning bolt. So I'm trying to file for unemployment. They're like, well, how about the previous claim you had open? I'm like, I never had a claim open. They're like, yeah, well, no, we have a claim for you associated with 98 Carroll Street when you last had unemployment.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, I got to tell. And so I tell these people, I'm like, look, I was in a halfway house. I don't know what that was about, but that's where I lived at 98 Carroll Street. So it got straightened out. But what they did, I signed over power to attorney to them.
You gave them power of attorney?
Yeah, which I didn't know.
Right.
They just got me signing a bunch of papers. I just think it's whatever. You know what I mean? Hey, I won't leave, or if you get hurt, you won't sue us type of shit.
Right.
I gave them power of attorney to which they took power of attorney and filed an unemployment claim in my name and took all of those checks.
That's dope.
Smart hustle.
Yeah.
I don't know how many guys they did it to, but like a lot of guys, they would sign them up for welfare and then take their welfare or their food stamps and use them. Like the food stamps went to feeding all the guys.
So like, I guess they don't care, but like the state doesn't see that. The state doesn't see, hey, we're sending out money, especially back then. They were probably sending a lot of checks and not so much electronic. We're sending 83 checks to this one address. Maybe we should look into this. Something seems weird.
You would think that the state would care, but no.
Not so much.
I mean, I don't think that they would care. You
Right.
might, as a stand-up citizen and a guy who hasn't been through this sort of thing, yeah, you might think that they
Right.
would care, but they don't. They just figured, we're just sending out a bunch of welfare checks to another block in Trenton.
Right.
You know, it's the
Right.
same as every other block in East Trenton or off of Perry Street.
Right.
So God knows how much they took from that unemployment claim. I mean, I would assume it was $200 a week at minimal, right? And I was there for 6 months. So whatever the math on that is, that's $800 a month times 6, $4,600
48, but yeah, you're close.
that they just got, you know? On top of whatever the state was paying them
To have you.
to house me.
Right.
Right? So that was one of the more underhanded scams, like kind of sneaky, like the
No, that's not kind of sneaky. That's
very
fraud.
sneaky. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
completely fraud.
yeah. Just says Mary Gay was tied deeply into state politics and she was friends with Chris Christie, so she could do things like this.
Right.
And she was just an angry little, like before being trans was cool. She was like an angry little trans-looking woman, like butchy haircut and just yelling at everybody and just an angry little cunt, just a disgusting human.
Okay. I mean, I could see it, you know, just in the description that you're giving me of the other stuff. So okay.
Yeah, she's a disgusting person.
Yeah.
Which I would love to run into her somewhere and just say, hey, you owe me $4,600, you fucking dirtbag.
You got to collect the interest on that too at this point.
Absolutely.
That's 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's a lot of interest. She's got it. Her son was driving an Audi around.
He's now the CEO of the place.
That makes sense. She's retired, just skimming off the top now.
Right.
So this place was just a shithole of a place, you know? And then there was like the shithole underhanded stuff that the guys were doing.
Right.
Right? Like, so after 3 months, you get to go out into the world and look for a job. I had found a job after a week or two, but Tommy Irish, who was my partner in crime, for the first 2 weeks or so that we were allowed out into the world, we're like, yeah, we're going on a job search. They're like, all right, go ahead, sign out and be back in a couple hours, right?
Yeah, sure.
And me and Tommy Irish would ride the river line down to Camden and buy up as many Suboxone as we could and come back and sell them for double inside of the building to the guys who couldn't leave the building.
Yeah.
So every white dude in there was on Suboxone.
Sure.
Right? Because it was an epidemic inside of the building. And when you haven't done real drugs for a long time, Suboxone would get you lit. Like you could take a little piece and you'd be in a groove for a good day, you know, like a 24-hour high. So it was the drug of choice.
It was good. It was economical.
Yeah, it was definitely the drug of choice there. And then I went and got a real job. However, I somehow beat the system because when you had a real job, you were supposed to give them some of your paycheck.
Right.
But I don't remember how I
But
got
they were already
around
taking
that.
your unemployment, so
Yeah,
they were good.
Say they didn't care, right? I don't remember how I got around it, but some way I got around it and was able to keep my money, right?
Okay.
And they tell you from the jump, like, hey, you know, if you save up your money and you do good and this, that, and the third, like when you move out, we'll help you with the furniture.
Oh, well, yeah, they got a whole store.
So I'm like, all right, cool. These are going to furnish my apartment. I saved up enough money to buy myself an apartment in South Trenton.
Okay.
Which I was super happy about, right?
Yeah.
I got my own spot now. Like, I transferred my drug court to Mercer County. I'm just going to set
doing
up
big
shop.
things.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to set up shop in Trenton. I had a girlfriend named Loser Pammy. Well, loser ass Pammy, she wasn't my girlfriend, but she was a friend of mine,
Sure.
right? Loser ass Pammy was hanging around like I was doing it, you know? And so when the time came for me to like actually leave, I talked to Barrett. I'm like, hey, you know, you told me like I get some furniture or whatever. He's like, yeah. Now go ahead, pick out what you want, and we'll get a delivery truck to bring it to you, right? So I'm like, all right, cool. So I don't remember how it happened, but I pick out like a couple things that I needed, and then they came to me and they're like, yeah.
With an invoice.
Yeah. And charged me for all the stuff that I picked out. I'm like, what the fuck? You gotta be kidding me, dude.
I'm coming back during the yard sale. Fuck this.
Dude. That place is so crooked. Like, I can't even believe that it's still up and running. Like, because I think if somebody had the heart and the care to, like, go shut it down, it would be super easy with a good lawyer. Like, the whole shit. Or not, because Mary Gay is tied into New Jersey politics.
Well, even if you take that component out of it, I think the problem you're going to run into is like, because the other half of it is a homeless shelter.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a lot of lawyers who want to stand in front of a judge and say we need to shut down a homeless shelter, even though you should because of the fraud and all that stuff.
You're right.
Like that's a real bad look for any attorney to argue for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, yeah,
It's
she was able to
almost like
like
they do that just
shroud
to protect
herself.
themselves,
Yeah. She shrouds herself behind running the homeless shelter so that she could run all these other scams.
shit.
Yeah. Because she's paid.
I'm sure.
I'm sure she's paid. I would love to run into her. There was one shining light. They get it off because of the homeless shelter, and it's one of the largest in the state. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one shining light in the Trenton Rescue Mission. One single shining light.
You.
No, besides any of the guys.
Oh, okay.
And besides Justin and his cute little chef's outfit. And that was Ida B. Malloy.
Okay.
Now, Ida B. Malloy is one of, to this day, is one of the the greatest people that I've ever met.
She's part of the reason we're here.
Is she? She is part of the reason why we're here. So Ida B. Malloy was the lady who worked in education. And she was an older black woman, lived in East Trenton. She was like a teacher at one point, and now she's got this gig basically helping guys get their GEDs, right? But Ida B., I guess she, and I say this with the utmost humility, is that Ida B., I think, recognized like my intelligence, so to speak, right? There she is. That's Ida B. Malloy right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's, oh man, I could almost cry looking at her. Seriously, because she was that phenomenal.
She was good people.
Yeah. Yeah, she was always fighting with Mary Gay. Because Ida
she
B,
was good people.
Yeah, because she cared about these guys. Ida B took on the Miss Ida, as we called her,
Sure.
right? Miss Ida took on like the role of being the mom for all these 100 dudes, right? These 100 guys who are locked up and maybe talk to their mothers once a week, maybe don't talk to their mothers at all, maybe talk to them on you know what I mean, who have this fractured relationship for whatever reason it is with their moms. Miss Ida stood in that spot to like show love to guys who were like the dregs of society.
Right.
Like where the rest of the world kind of looked at us like we were these jerk-offs, and we're acting like these jerk-offs, running hustles on each other and trying to scam for a buck and not get caught using drugs and all this bullshit. Miss Ida would just kind of show us love and try and give a little guidance and just accept, right? Like no judgment. It was just her accepting you as you are and hoping that she could help you to get somewhere inside of you being who you are.
Right.
And so I think Ida recognized the literary bug that I had in me. And even though I already had my GED and I had no real reason to be in the education center, she would always let me come in there and we would talk books. And she would bring a new book for me every time I finished one. I would finish a book and she would come with the next one. Finish a book, come with the next one. And we would sit and talk about it and discuss it. And she would, we would discuss life and what happened to me and what my relationship was with my mom and why am I here, and like just played this phenomenal role in my life of just giving me a spot where there was like some love, right? Inside of this cold building where everybody's trying to get over on each other. I would come sit in this chair and talk to Ida and just feel good about whatever. Just feel good about being me.
Just some kind of human comfort.
Right. So for her, she's a goddamn saint for that. Because that wasn't just me. That was plenty of guys who she had that relationship with.
Right.
She also was willing to break the rules a little bit. And we've talked about it before, but I'll run through it again, is that somehow I acquired an old iPod. And I had an iPod, it had like 3 songs on it. And Ida, I don't know why, but I wound up sending the iPod with her so that she could get it filled up for me. And her daughter filled up my iPod with a whole bunch of music and a whole bunch of podcasts, when podcasts were really not a thing, right?
Right.
Joe Rogan was probably still in his closet talking to his clothes at this time.
Still playing, what was he playing? Unreal Tournament on his computer at home.
Playing Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah, podcasts were just barely a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but what I did have was Rosenberg on Hot 97 would release his episodes of his radio show real late onto the internet somewhere.
Right.
Her daughter grabbed all of those and put them on the iPod for me, and grabbed a bunch of The Basement. No, it wasn't called The Basement. It was called Hood Hype at the time. They now switched it and it's called The Basement. And I would listen to them and be like, oh, this is like a thing that, this is my thing. Like, I could do this. Like, you know what I mean? And it, like, the light went off there. So,
right.
But that's because Ida recognized, like, hey, there's something else with this kid, you know, this knucklehead 24, 25-year-old, however old I was, right?
There's more to you than your bad behavior.
Right. There's something with him that's a thing that should be nurtured. And should it have been nurtured at any point, maybe
you take a different path.
Right. Maybe I'm here sooner.
Right.
Right? Or further ahead in this field.
Right.
So here's to you, Ida Malloy. I don't think she'll ever know how important she may have been.
Well, she's on LinkedIn. I found her, so you can message her if you want.
I have her email. I send her a message every once in a while.
She's working for a school in Ballackinwood now.
Oh, good. Then last time I talked to her a few years back, she was still at the rescue mission and hating it as much as ever.
She looks like she left there in 18.
Good. She's way better than but also kind of sad because now there's guys.
She's important. They don't have that.
Yeah. I hope they have someone like that. Right. I hope somebody with some love in their heart took the place of Ida and has that for the guys who are currently running through there and stuck in the system.
Sure. That looks like a really good place to break it off. We're at about an hour and 5 minutes here. So
that being said,
let's make this the first hour.
Yeah, if you're in the live chat, hang tough. I'm just going to run through some things and then we're coming right back. Like, stay right there. If you're watching on the replay, we thank you for running through with us and listening to this story. I didn't know what I was going to talk about when I showed up here tonight. Luckily, I have an endless array of stories from the streets and the justice system to tap into. And if you enjoyed that story from the justice system, hit www.thegigpodcast.net, which brings you to our page with a whole list of videos of previous episodes that are stories, that are debates, that are me and Payday yelling at each other. We got some guests. We got all types of good shit. There's also on iTunes and Spotify. You can check us out. Search for The Gig Podcast. We pop up. There's some of the older episodes are there. We just started re-uploading, so we'll be up to date here going forward. We thank you for joining us. Come back on Monday for the Tool Shed, Volume 16 with me, Biz, and Payday, and then come back next Friday for another episode of The Gig. I'm out of here.